we're going to host before confirmations are due. A few of us are online to answer questions that are specific to you in the Q&A box. So feel free to go ahead and ask questions in there. I want to start by just clearing up some confusion that we saw today, especially in our inbox. So if you are on this call and you have been accepted to Australia, China, Czech Republic, or Germany, there is no action that you need to take at this time. I know we've been discussing in all of our webinars, like March 3rd is the deadline to confirm your scholarship, but for those 4 programs, you have not been told what your scholarship amount is yet, so you don't have to do anything by March 3rd. We are gonna be in touch with you this month to let you know the status of your program that you were accepted to and the options that are available to you this summer. So if you're here from one of those 4 programs, you can just sit tight for now, and there's nothing that you need to really do at this time. So I wanted to quickly show everyone what your CIEE account looks like at this time, just so that if you are trying to confirm your spot, I just want to be very clear about what is expected of you. So I am going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. And while you're waiting for me to pull that up, if you have a specific question, feel free to ask it in the Q&A, and we will be answering your questions throughout the presentation. We're not going to go through all the slides like we have in previous weeks. I think at this point, everyone knows the standards we have for this summer, and a lot of people just have very specific questions one-on-one about their program. Why?
Are you having trouble sharing your screen?
I can't log into Salesforce.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Because I made you a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, I should be able to. Just give me 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys this. Here we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
And you see the student account?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is what your accounts should look like at this point. You'll see the program that you were accepted to. If you are unsure about your program dates, all of that information is under your program information section. Under your commitment section is where you will see the task that you need to complete in order to confirm your spot. So do you have a passport task? It is okay if you don't have a passport at this time. You are going to either let us know that you have a passport that is valid through February 2022 by saying yes. If you don't, you can say no and just let us know the date that you've either already applied for it or the date that you plan to apply. It's okay if this is an approximation. It's really just for us to put it on your radar that you must have a valid passport past February 2022 in order to participate on the program. So once you complete that task, you'll say save and close, and then a blue box that says submit will show up here. You will need to submit this task. Another important task, this student's already completed it, but it's called health and wellness. So if you haven't completed this task yet, it will still show in your commitment box. This is just a task that lets us know, do you have any health issues? Do you have any food allergies? And that just lets our team in the location that you're going to start planning to have you this summer. Now, this student has a acceptance deposit that is less than $1,000. So we've had a lot of questions lately about how do I pay my acceptance deposit if I don't have an acceptance deposit task in my commitment box. For those of you with an acceptance deposit of $1,000, there's a task that will show up here. You'll press start and it'll be very self-explanatory. If your remaining balance is less than $1,000, you're going to scroll down to this financial information box. So this is where you can see the amount of your scholarship. You can see your billing statement here, which will show you how much you owe for your program overall. And so your full remaining balance is due at this time. So say your remaining balance is $500, you will press start and you can enter in the amount that you wish to pay in your account. You can pay by debit, credit card, ACH. You put in your information and you press submit. And we will automate a new billing statement for you within the next 2 weeks that will show your deposit on your statement. The student, anytime you make a payment in your account, the thank you for payment email goes to the student email. So you can always check the student's email address. It is linked to their account. And that's how you can, check to make sure that that has been taken care of. If you do not see this financial information in your account yet, it means that our billing team is still working on uploading your scholarship to your account. So if it does not appear by March 3rd, which it should, but if it doesn't, you're not in danger of being, canceled. We will work with you once that task appears. So just keep checking your account each day this week and it will be there for you to complete your acceptance deposit task. Okay. So I'm going to take a peek at what some of the questions are. Again, this is a space for us to answer last minute questions before you make this commitment about whether or not you're going to study abroad with us this summer. I'm going to look at questions starting at the bottom and I'll work my way up. Does the Netherlands program have a 1-week quarantine? All CIEE summer programs will have a 1-week soft isolation upon arrival, including the program in the Netherlands. Do you have copies of slides from previous sessions available? Yes, we do. If you email the HS Abroad inbox requesting that, we will send you a copy of the questions asked and the slides.
I can actually copy those links in the
that'd be perfect.
in the question. So let me answer that one.
Are deposits and full program balance two different things? It depends. So if you're, say your scholarship covers everything except for $1,500, $1,000 is your deposit, which is due now, and then $500 is your remaining balance, and that will be due in April. If your scholarship covers everything and it's $1,000 or less, so say you only owe $500 at this time, that is technically your remaining balance and your deposit, and it's all due now. And you be paying through that make an online bill payment at the bottom of your account. Both your deposit and your remaining balance, like your tuition payments to CIEE, are refundable if your program is canceled this spring. How do we decline a program offer? You can just email us at the HS Abroad inbox, or yeah, that's the easiest way. Just email us and let us know that unfortunately you're not going to be traveling with us this summer. Do the students need a student visa? For now, the programs that we are running for summer 2021, they do not require student visas in order to enter. We're still monitoring China. That is the only summer location where traditionally students apply for visas to go abroad in the summer. Everything else, students enter on as tourists. There might be some different requirements this summer based on if countries reopen their borders with just student visas allowed to entry. So if that is the case with your program, we will email you and let you know. And if there are visas required, we will supply those documents for you to apply for that. Will the students have any interaction prior to their trip? You will have a pre-departure webinar with the in-country staff of your program, as well as the other students who are going on your program. So that'll be your chance to meet each other virtually before the program. You'll also get a chance to meet with them through the Canvas course, and that's where students tend to share their information with each other and connect online before going. Was the competition more intense this year or was it easier? I'm asking if I decide to decline this year. It was it was a competitive year. I think more so in typical years, it's a little bit more competitive just because we get more scholarships. You know, schools were online this year. We weren't able to visit schools in person. So typically, I mean, the acceptance rate of a scholarship is usually about 1 in 3 students who apply. So, you know, even in a year like this where we got a little bit less applications, it's still a very competitive process. My son is scheduled to go to Berlin for 3 weeks. In previous meeting mentioned that students have to quarantine when they arrive. Is that correct? How long? So again, currently all CIEE programs, there will be a 7-day soft isolation upon entry. If there is a longer quarantine required for that by the country that we're traveling to, we will alert you prior to departure and you would given the choice of switching to another program, canceling and getting a refund, or deferring to summer 2022. But all students should expect a 7-day quarantine upon a 7-day isolation upon arrival. How would we go about updating the health and wellness part? You would just need to email us at HS Abroad and we can reopen that task for you so you can edit it. Once you submit tasks to CIEE, you can actually edit them. So if that ever happens with any task that you need to change, just email us. But the better advice would be to read over your responses really carefully before you press submit. How are the housing arrangements decided? I watched too many movies about hostels. We have very strict standards for where our students live, especially even in a normal year. And now we're talking about a pandemic. So, you know, we vet the housing that we use extremely well. Students are often separated from the other guests if there are other guests in the accommodations. So no need to be worried that you're staying in a scary hostel. Plus your program leaders who are your chaperones are going to be living with you on the same floor. So you'll be very safe. Can I defer the program to next summer and receive the same scholarship? Currently, if you've received your scholarship, it means that the program you've been accepted to is running this summer. So because your program is still running, you're not able to defer to summer 2022. And if you confirm and accept your scholarship and pay your deposit at this time, what you're telling us is that if the program is to run as it's scheduled to run, that you're planning to come because we are preparing to have you on this program based on the number of students who have told us that they want to do this. Again, if there's something changes this spring, like we have to get rid of the host family component for language and culture programs, or there's a longer quarantine, or we say that we're going to move all of our classes to be online, we will alert you of those changes, and that's when you'll be given the chance to defer to next year if that's what you want to do. The same is true as if we cancel your program prior to departure. Should I relist my questions here that I have already submitted to the web email, or will you go through them shortly? I would put any questions that you have that you want us to answer in the Q&A now. We have a lot of members of our team on. I'm answering some live, but people are also typing responses. So this is the time to get your questions answered. What happens if one gets COVID before leaving? If you test positive for COVID prior to returning to the US, our in-country staff is prepared to care for you until you test negative and are well enough to return to the US. If you need medical treatment while you are abroad, your INEXT insurance also covers, you know, COVID-19 in addition to other medical conditions. So we will support you. While we have to book our own flights, does CIE negotiate with airlines and provide any group discounts? This will help ensure participants are together in flights and also reach on the same designated time. So we work with a carrier called FlightFox. They have all of our flight information. They will have the information for the group flight that we find, and they'll also be able to help families who want to book, maybe a direct flight from where they live to the location. We do not have a relationship with a specific airline because we use many different airlines depending on where we're going. FlightFox is able, if you have like frequent flyer miles or anything that you want to use when booking, they can do that on their end, but CIE doesn't have like a group discount for students going on the group flight. And it's important to note that the group flight is not always the cheapest option. The group flight is the option that we have found to be the best fit for our participants to get to the location during the time that our center staff need to receive students. So that's why when you are invited to book flights, they will show you the group flight option, but if you want to book something else because maybe there's a cheaper direct flight, FlightFox can organize that for you at that time. We'll also be able to share if there's students from your area and you want to book on a flight with a group of students and go to your location and not through the group flight, we'll be able to help you organize that as well. What if I accept and then have to decline? So I really encourage everyone to look over their terms and conditions again, but if you accept your scholarship and pay your deposit at this time and your program moves forward as scheduled, the expectation is that you are attending, and deposits and payments are not refundable if the program runs as it is currently planned. Obviously, if something outside of your control happens, like there's a death in the family right before the trip, or you're in an accident or something medically comes up, we work with you and we would need to see some documentation. But the idea is that if you are accepting your scholarship at this time and putting down your deposit, you are telling us that if your program runs, that you are coming and attending. So that's why we want to make sure we have all of your questions answered. This is a big commitment. It's a big decision to make, and we want to make sure that you're comfortable with the decision that you're making at this time.
Could you recap the soft isolation again? There are a few questions about that.
Yep. So upon arrival, for all programs, so if you're on a global discovery program, you're going to be in your own room with your own bathroom for the first 7 days of your program. If you're living with a host family, you're going to have your own room and your own room for the whole duration of the program. So that won't change. All classes and orientations will be online for that first 7 days. Any activities that we do, you will be in a small pod of the same group of students. So we're talking 10 to 15 students from your program. And those activities will be outdoors. Students will be wearing masks, socially distancing during that 7-day soft isolation. And that is because we want to monitor your symptoms and your health so that if there is someone who is showing signs of COVID-19, we are not, congregating as a group together the moment we arrive in country. So that's what we mean by a 7-day isolation. For language and culture programs, that means after that 7-day isolation, we will move to have classes in person. They will still be small classes and you'll still be, wearing a mask, but those classes will move to be in person at that time. Same with global discovery. After that 7-day soft isolation, our classes and meetings and activities will also resume to be in person. Okay, what is the online bill payment? So if you're looking at my screen, this is what we mean when we say use the make an online bill payment option. So when you scroll down in your account, you should have this financial information section, and you can just press start. And as you can see, you can type in the amount that you want to pay in your account. So if you need to pay your deposit, this is where you go. If you don't see this in your account yet, it just means that our finance team is still adding your scholarship to your account, and just keep checking every day this week and it will appear and you can make your payment. If someone got into the program and they can't go, can they give their spot to someone else? No, we only review scholarship applications once. So the program you've been accepted to, that was your spot. And if you can't go, you can't say, I want to let this person from this other program onto my spot. With the isolation, is that included in the current dates or do they need to arrive early? No, it is included in the current dates. And I've gotten a lot of questions like, will the dates change? And the answer is no. The program dates are, those aren't going to change this summer on our end. So you should plan as such. For programs, if you're going to Mexico or Costa Rica, you fly out the day your program starts. If you're going anywhere else, you depart the day before because you're on an overnight flight, and then you return on the last day of your program. What happens if a student gets sick while abroad? Is there a way for a student to still participate while quarantining? If a student tests positive for COVID while abroad, they will be isolated for the duration of their sickness. And that's just because not only is that the public health protocol in the countries where we run programs, but we also have to keep the other participants safe, and we need to make sure that that student is being cared for and monitored. So they will be not participating with the group if they are sick with COVID. Can you give some specifics on what soft isolation means in practice? I believe we answered that. Okay, I joined late. Is US citizens allowed to enter France? Currently, France is not open to tourism. However, there are some exemptions for students to enter. We're continuing to monitor the situation. If there's not even exemptions for students to enter this summer, obviously your program will be canceled, and we will communicate the options available to you at that time. Is travel insurance included in the program cost? If not, what company do you partner with or recommend? So like health insurance, international health insurance is included in the program costs. And that covers like other things like if you lose your luggage or like lost items, there's insurance coverage in that policy as well. There's not a policy to insure like the cost of your trip. And the reason for that is those policies end up costing as much as the trip costs without a scholarship. So that's why we don't recommend a particular company, because at the end of the day, you end up paying what you would have just paid for the program. Are the homestay accommodations canceled in China? You said that counselors would be on the same floor, so is it a dorm setup? So we have not announced yet if the program in China is canceled or not. Currently, the program is still scheduled to run, and if it does run, it is still scheduled to run with the host family component. For programs in China, Germany, Czech Republic, and Australia, we will let you know in mid-March the status of your program. The reality is with those 4 locations, they have not allowed entry for tourism or for students in the past 12 months. So that's why we put them in the less likely to run category. And so we will update you in about 2 weeks about the status of that program. And if it is canceled, we will let you know your options. What is the quarantine rules arrival to France and how far in advance should students arrive? We answered this. The program dates are the dates of the program. We're not going to arrive early and quarantine prior to the start of the program. And all CIE students should plan for a 7-day soft isolation, no matter which program they are attending. How does COVID testing work in the country we are traveling to? It varies depending on the location that you're going to. You will be required to take a COVID-19 test prior to returning to the US. And so our in-country staff will coordinate this. You won't have to find like a doctor's office or a pharmacy to go do that, but you will be responsible for the cost of that COVID test upon return. So we'll let you know prior to departure how much money you should expect to pay for your COVID test, but we will handle all the logistics of getting you to that appointment. Do you know when you will decide if the programs are happening? We are monitoring all the programs. We are, as soon as we have an update about, an aspect of a program or a cancellation, we will communicate that via email. So that will go out to the participants as well as their emergency contacts. And in that email, we will outline, unfortunately your program has been canceled. Here are the options available to you at this time. And we'll tell you how you can tell us what you want to do at that time. For programs like that are less likely to run, like Germany, Australia, China, Czech Republic, we'll be making those decisions or updates in March. And so please continue to check your emails. The scholarship and the program tuition is the same. What exactly are we paying? I'm confused. I'm confused a little bit by the question. So tuition is the cost of the program. So like for this student, in all of your accounts, you can always see how much your program costs without any type of financial aid. So this program is $4,750. And then your scholarship is, any money that CIEE is giving you to help you pay for the cost of your tuition. So scholarships can range from a merit scholarship, which is 10% off. So for this student, it would be $475, all the way up to a full scholarship, depending on the information that you provided in your application. So that 1040 tax return. So you can always see how much your scholarship is in your financial information part of your account. There, it will say scholarship awarded, and that's where you can see if you were awarded a scholarship, how much you received from us. Can we switch to a different session? And if so, what is the cutoff date? You would need to email us at HS Abroad and just explain why you need to switch to a different session. Like, are you still in school? Just give us the reason. And if your program is being offered across 2 sessions, we will let you know. I would say this needs to be done by the end of March at the latest, because as I said, we're starting to plan for students this summer. Are all students required to only use the CIEE travel agency? Are the families of the students allowed to use the travel agency during the program? So you are not required to book your flight with FlightFox. It's definitely, it's an option, but it's not required. They do a really great job though of customer service. If your flight's canceled, they are just a really big help. It is a $50 fee to book with FlightFox, but again, the level of support they offer during travel day is just really, really helpful. And you as the family can also book your flights with FlightFox. If you are coming at the end of the program to do vacation together, they can book all of that as well. It's not just for the student. Are all the students are from different states? Will there be a meeting location for the group flight? Yes, we will pick a gateway airport in the US for us to meet and then travel the international portion of the trip together. And we'll share that information this spring once we have the flight information. Please provide details of transportation to and from program activities and homestays. It depends on the program that you're going on, but for language and culture programs, students are required to get themselves to and from class and activities. So depending on the city that they're in, that can mean anything from, taking public transportation. So if they're, say, in Madrid or Barcelona, they could be taking the subway. Other locations that are like smaller cities like Sevilla, they are walking to and from locations because it's a walkable city. But they should be prepared to take public transportation if you're in a major city. Is there anyone from Arizona? You will find out who is on your program this spring when you have your pre-departure webinar, and you'll also get to meet them on Canvas. For the Morocco trip, will we be staying with the host family? Yes, the Arabic language and culture program, like all language and culture programs, has a host family component. Is there a possibility that the language classes will go remote while they are there because of COVID? Is there a possibility of the program being canceled? Yes, I want to be transparent. There's a possibility of all CIEE summer programs being canceled. We have seen this year that COVID-19 can change very quickly. And so just as we're hopeful that it will change for the better this summer, we're also realistic that things could change for the worse. So that's why we will continue to update you throughout the spring, but we do want to be realistic that, program cancellations, they are a part of studying abroad, and we will let you know as soon as we have an update. While you are abroad, it is also possible that your classes would transition to be fully remote. This could be because of a local restriction that goes into place while you're abroad. It could be because you have come into contact with someone who is COVID positive, and we're going to need you to isolate. We want to be transparent about that. If we know that we're going to be transitioning classes to be remote fully before we go on the program, we will let you know about that as soon as we know, and you will have, again, those options to cancel and get a refund, defer to next summer, or switch to another program that is still running that has space. We'll be able to choose our own group for soft isolation if there's someone we know is going on the same program. You can request it, but we can't guarantee that you will be with your friend for the soft isolation. How are emergencies handled, such as car accidents, activity-related accidents, and illnesses that require hospitalization? We have a plan in place for any emergency that we can think of for our programs. If anything happens to one of your students while they are abroad, our support team will notify you. They are in touch with our center staff. So anything that happens with students, from something as minor as them, slipping on a hike and twisting their ankle to, God forbid, bigger instances like a car accident, you'll be notified as soon as anything happens. Our program leaders and our site staff are there to support students in emergencies. They go through during orientation what the protocols are for any emergencies that happen in their cities. So is this a shelter in place? Do we need to go to the meeting place that we've determined as a group? And they will handle that with students during that first week of orientation. And again, if there's any illnesses, even not related to COVID, the program leaders will accompany students to any doctor's visits that they need, and students do have international health insurance while abroad. If you're less than 15 years old and there is no chaperone on your flight because of non-students not being able to enter the country, are you then forced to travel with the unaccompanied minor program of the airline, even if you travel with a group? We will handle that with you if it comes up. But yes, typically 14-year-olds, if you are traveling without an adult, you will have to register as unaccompanied minor. And depending on the airline and the location that you're going to, it might bar you from being able to actually travel. So there's some airlines that aren't doing unaccompanied minor service right now for international flights. So we will cross that bridge with you when we get there. Hopefully there will be a chaperone for your program, and if not, we will work with you on a one-on-one basis. Is the COVID vaccine required to travel to Kyoto? What if regulations change? So right now, we don't require students to be vaccinated. If the location that we're going to require students to be vaccinated, we will likely not be running the program because most of our students will not be able to get vaccinated. If we decide to run the program and a vaccination is required and you cannot get a vaccination, you will be able to cancel, defer, or switch to another program. Okay, we're having trouble accessing paying the $150 for the college credit option. How do we do this? There should be a task in your account. You first have to opt in to the college credit, and then one of the tasks will be paying for that college credit. If you're still having issues with that, Stuart, I would just email the HS Abroad inbox and your advisor will follow up with you. Do you have any suggestions on getting a passport? Our passport is expiring prior to the program and we cannot review online because they're under 18. Passport offices are closed and information regarding in-person appointments suggests it's for emergency travel only. Unfortunately, each state is a little bit different in how they're handling passports, especially for minors. So, you really have to research what is the local requirement in your state. We're hoping that as things start to reopen, in-person appointments, they pick up. But if you're really concerned about this, I would email our team at HS Abroad. Is a soft isolation already mandated for all programs? Yes, it is for all programs. What is the protocol for potential doctors or hospital visits? We discussed this. Program leaders will accompany you. Also, if the student tests negative for COVID-19 prior to arrival and has taken the COVID-19 vaccination, will they still need to quarantine? Yes, the soft isolation is for all students at this time. If there are enough students who have been vaccinated and they can have a cohort, we could potentially lift that. But at this time, everyone should plan for a 7-day soft isolation once they arrive in their country. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that, we also have to adhere to local restrictions. So they might require all tourists or all international travelers entering to do a quarantine, even if they've been vaccinated. how many total students will be in the Kyoto program? How many students in each class while there? The number of students, I mean, it's still in flux because we're still having students confirm, but you should expect to have, again, 10 to 15 in your small pod during that first week. And then classes will also be smaller this year. You can expect between 15 to 20 students in your class. So the program starts July 11th. Flights are July 10th. If you are going to a location that is not Mexico or Costa Rica, the answer is yes. My graduation and my program date is the same day. Are we leaving in the morning? You should email us, but no, you would probably be leaving the day before, which would conflict with your graduation. So let's see if we can put you on a different session. What if my family's in the host country and they might want to visit? They can visit with the student at the end of the program. So your student doesn't have to leave when the program ends, but we can't have students having visitors during the program because students have to be like on the CIE program and they can't be having outside visitors. I already answered this. Can students currently, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are still some questions coming back on soft isolation. Sorry, like recent ones. I feel like something we maybe worth it to just go over it quickly.
So again, for language and culture programs, for that first 7 days, all of your classes will be online. If you are doing an activity, it's going to be an outdoor activity. So you might go on like a walking tour of a particular part of your city, but you will only be doing that activity with a small group of students, like 10 to 15 for that first 7 days. Your orientation will be online. So the majority of your time will be spent in your host family's home. You'll be getting to know them during those 7 days, but you will not be with your whole group and you will not be going to class in person during the soft isolation. For global discovery programs, you all are not living with host families. You're living in like a dorm or a hotel or a hostel as a group. You will have your own room and your own bathroom for those first 7 days. And again, all activities or classes or speakers that you might have been hearing from on the program, all of that will be remote that first week. If you're going on activities during that first week, it's not with the whole group. It's with a small pod of students. You'll have meals with that small pod of students for the first 7 days. So no more than 10 to 15. And this is a requirement of all of our summer programs. It is also a requirement of all students, whether or not you have been vaccinated. You know, we just want to be transparent about that now. If, you know, things get really great and everyone in the US is able to get vaccinated by this summer, you know, hopefully maybe that plan will change. But at this time, that is the plan for this summer. So everyone on this call should plan for a 7-day soft isolation upon arrival in their international location. And not only is that to keep you safe so that we can monitor students, another reason is also a lot of countries, if you are able to enter at this time, it is also a requirement of entry. So we have to adhere to local restrictions as well. So that's sort of the why behind that. And if you have further questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A. Can students currently enter Italy at this time? On a student visa, students can. So we're seeing if this would be possible for a shorter term program this summer. Is the same situation with Japan like with France? Yes, students can enter Japan on a student visa. Our summer programs, students don't usually apply for a visa. So that's why we're seeing if there will be an exemption for students by this summer. So far, is it guaranteed everyone will be going despite COVID? No, it's not guaranteed. We are continuing to monitor all of our international programs. And if there is a change to your program or a cancellation, we will let you know. If a student is going with a friend, is there a way to request that the friend be put in a small cohort during this week of soft isolation? You can definitely request it, but it's not something that is going to be, it's not guaranteed. some of these programs, we have just a lot of logistics to think about. There's also thinking about if you're on a language and culture program, your host family might not be near where your friend is. And so that might be how we're grouping students for activities. So it's not something that we can guarantee at this time. Do the host families have kids who are similar in age? Again, not all host families have children. Our host families come in many shapes and sizes. We could have an older retired couple hosting a student. What we look for in host families, more so than if they have kids or not, is are they a good fit to host American students on their programs? All of our host families receive a background check. They get a visit from our local staff, and you fill out a survey about your experience living with the family, and then you as the parent also fill out a survey about your experience having your child stay with them, so that we're constantly collecting data on our host families. But no, there is not always going to be a host sibling that is the same age or similar age as the student. Typically, we make up for this on a summer program by having contact hours with local teens. Because of COVID-19 this year, that will not be the case because we're trying to limit student exposure as much as possible. So if that's a non-negotiable for you this summer, that your student is interacting with local peers, this might not be the summer to study abroad. I see some questions about, like, I'm part of an organization and they're going to handle my deposit. You don't worry about your deposit then, just please take care of the passport task and the health and wellness task, and we are in touch with your organization. So no need to stress. Can I pay the total and deposit all at once using the info, make an online bill payment? You can, if you have the task, the acceptance deposit task, you should pay it through the acceptance deposit task, because otherwise it doesn't go away automatically, and on our end doesn't show that you've confirmed. So just to make things easy, if you have acceptance deposit task, pay there, and then you can automatically go in and pay your remaining balance through the make an online bill payment. Can I pay the deposit? I already did that. Was the program in Japan canceled? No, it's still scheduled to run at this time. If there's any cancellations of programs, we will update you via email. What programs are most likely to run? This is a tough question to answer just because, again, local restrictions can change, and they can change pretty rapidly. For me, the way I look at what's likely to run is where are we running programs now? So Costa Rica, France, and Spain are, we have students there at this time. But there are other locations like Mexico that are looking really promising for this summer. But we also expect that a lot will change in the coming weeks in terms of border entry requirements for some of our locations. How many times can you defer a program? So you can defer your program once your program is canceled or there's a major change to it. So you will have that option to defer to summer 2022 if that happens, even if you've already deferred from summer 2020. If a person gets sick while quarantined, will they be able to participate online from their room? Yes, that is true. So, if they are not able to attend their in-person classes, they will be able to Zoom in. So they're not just going to be sitting in their room, sadly isolated from the group. Our local staff will work to make sure they feel included as much as they can. For the Kyoto, Japan trip, since they do not have an airport, so I don't want anyone to stress right now about, like, how do I get from the airport to my program? We account for all of that in the planning. So when we're confident that your program is going to run, we will invite you to book your flights. We will tell you what airport you must arrive in, and then our local staff will handle everything else. They will pick you up from baggage claim, or you will fly over with a CIEE chaperone. So you don't need to be stressed about the logistics of how to get to the program once you arrive. What if we don't have our passport ready by April 1st? you will start getting automated reminders from us after April 1st, but the task won't disappear. So just after April 1st, if you get an email from us saying your passport is past due, just email us back letting us know, I'm expecting it to arrive by this date, so that we know that you're on it. And then once it arrives, just make sure you upload it to your CIEE account. There's a question about wearing makeup in Japan. So I just want to clarify, all of our programs, students aren't like attending a local high school. They are attending classes with the other CIEE students. So we will go over like what we suggest students wear so that they don't feel like out of place in the country that they're going to, but we don't have like a dress code for students on the summer programs. How much, excuse me. How much do the solo flights from France tend to range? For any flight estimates, I just tell everyone to go onto like a Google Flights or an Expedia and see how much flights are for your program dates. But to keep in mind that, prices of flights can change drastically depending on when you book and the route that you book on. But if you're looking for an estimate, that's the best way to see one. There's some questions about like, is Amsterdam still running? Is Japan still running? No programs at this time have been suspended. So everything is currently still running. And we will be making announcements first about Germany, Australia, Czech Republic, and China this month. So, and as soon as we have any other updates, we will let you know. How will we get picked up? It's going to depend on your program, but often we have chartered buses and we just spend the first day picking you up from the airport and bringing you to the start of the program. When will we be able to contact people in our specific program? Again, this spring, we will enroll you in Canvas where you can talk to your group, and then you will also go to a pre-departure webinar where you'll get to meet everyone before your program starts. During the soft isolation activities are still in person, correct? Yes, but they're not going to be these fully scheduled days like they would be in a non-soft isolation. So there might only be one activity per day. That's like a walking tour or something that's outdoors, versus once soft isolation is over, you might have your classes in person and then, an outdoor activity and then going home to your host family. So still having activities in person, but a lot more limited. Our family is planning to take a family vacation before the program start date. Can we use the travel agency for airfare? You can, but I really want to reiterate that students should be quarantining for 2 weeks before their program starts this summer. So if you are planning family travel, in conjunction with this program, it needs to be at the end of the program, because students shouldn't be, they shouldn't be out and about, and they're going to have to get a negative COVID test 72 hours prior to departure. And so you're putting your student at risk by doing that. You can use FlightFox though to book your family's travel as well, but just please book it for the end of the program. Can we get a copy of all the questions asked in this webinar? Yes, we usually send out like a spreadsheet of everything that was asked, and we fill in answers that we weren't able to answer in the time that we have. Wow, we've answered 238 questions though. That is a lot.
Speaking of which, we should probably wrap up soon, because
yeah.
we have another team that needs the space.
Yeah. Is there anything big, Pierre, that you see that we can touch on, or is it like a lot of one-offs?
A lot of the questions are around host families, about knowing the language before the host family. When am I going to find out? So overall, 2 weeks prior, you'll hear what your family is. Sorry, you can go over that.
Yep, we'll let you know via email who your host family is 2 weeks or less prior to departure. At that time, you can make contact with them. What was the other question about host families?
Can you contact them before?
Yep, you can contact them before.
Do they speak English? Usually no, and we don't really encourage that they speak English.
Yeah, even if they do, they're told not to talk to you in English, but it's okay. They're very used to having American students come and stay with them. And that's why your program leaders and local staff are there as well. So if there's anything getting lost in translation, you're not totally on your own. Our staff is there to support you. Are we able to view the lodging where they will quarantine? So if you're going on a global discovery program, we will share like where students are living prior to the program. We don't have that information for all of our locations at this time, but I don't want you to think about their lodging as like where they'll be quarantining, because that's where they're going to live for the duration of the program. They're just going to have their own room for the first week, and then after that 7 days, they will have a roommate after that.
If a student comes in contact with a COVID positive individual, what is the process? And is there a refund for those that must quarantine?
I don't believe they're offering refunds for students once they're on programs, because, you know, by that point, we've incurred costs for individual students. If, you know, a student has come into contact, I believe the protocol is that we isolate them and then they're tested. And then as long as they test negative, they're able to rejoin the program. But if that's a big question, we'll be sure to clarify it and we'll answer it and send it out to everyone in the spreadsheet from our health and safety team. There's another question that I just want to touch on that I've seen a lot. It's like parents asking, what if my child gets sick? Will I be able to go over and be with my child? I just want to be really transparent about this summer, that there is a possibility that your student will be able to enter the location that they're going to. Like Spain is a good example right now. Students can enter, but tourists, like I can't enter Spain, but a student could. So if that's a non-negotiable for you this summer, that you must be able to go to where your child is, which is completely understandable. I feel like I would be that way as a parent. This might not be the summer, because again, that's border entries are outside of our control. And so I just want to be transparent about that if that's in the back of your mind. The only countries I think that we run programs that are open to tourism completely is Mexico and Costa Rica. Everything right now, it would be with a student exemption. That's not to say it won't change this summer, but that's just the reality of the situation at this time. Will our host families allow us to have a friend from the program over for a sleepover? No, your friend will stay with their host family and you will stay with yours. There's some questions about picking children, like can family members pick up children at the end of the program, or like, can I come meet my child at the end of the program? That is okay. There's paperwork that we'll ask you to fill out if like a family member is picking up the child or you're coming. But again, we ask that any like interactions like that are happening at the end of programs and not at the beginning. Questions about technology. So yes, for language and culture programs, you need to bring like a tablet or a laptop is preferred for that first week of instruction. Pierre, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the same for global discovery. They would need technology as well.
Yes, yep.
Yep, so for all programs. And host families will have Wi-Fi, and all accommodations for students in global discovery programs have Wi-Fi. If a child tests positive before the trip, do they get to defer or we lose the money? If a child tests positive for COVID 72 hours prior to departure, CIE payments are refundable. Or if you're on session 1, we can defer you to session 2. Did I not get my first choice because I didn't apply early enough? No, we wait for all applications to come in, we score them, and then that's how we make assignments. So if you didn't get your first choice, it just means that we really wanted to offer you a scholarship, but your first choice program was full at that time. And we still hope you'll travel abroad with us. Questions about Kyoto, Japan. So I just want to be clear, the only programs that we haven't sent out like scholarship award announcements for is Germany, Australia, Czech Republic, and Pierre, help me out. What's the last one I'm missing?
Sarah was listening. Germany, Czech Republic, Australia, China.
China. Yep. So if you're accepted to a program that is not those 4, your confirmation to accept your scholarship is this week. It's tomorrow. If you are accepted to one of those 4 programs, just hold tight and we will talk to you about your options this month. So if you've been accepted to Kyoto, Japan, you need to make your decision by tomorrow.
We have to
wrap
up,
off.
Emily, because there is
Yep.
another team behind. Yep.
Okay. So we will, for everyone else's questions that weren't answered, we'll be sending out the list to everyone that was on this call. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any further questions, you can always schedule a time with your advisor or give us a call. We're open 9 to 5, Monday through Thursday. Thanks, everyone.